Welcome to the Tambellini Group's New Normal in Higher Ed. I'm Raechelle Clemmons, and I'm privileged to have been your host for the New Normal this past year. This is our wrap-up episode for the year and for the New Normal series as a whole. There comes a time when the new normal just becomes, well, normal. 2020 has been an unusual year, to say the least, and I've had the privilege of talking to some extraordinary higher education leaders about the changes we've seen this year in areas ranging from IT leadership to student expectations, data privacy, and my personal favorite, diversity, equity, and inclusion. To wrap up the series, we asked our guests this year to answer one final question for us. What's one thing that you've seen emerge or happen this year that you think will become a permanent part of the new normal, and why? As you'll see in the following clips, they were surprisingly diverse in their responses, except one. Many agree that remote work has made its way into higher education, and we're never fully going back to campus. We'd love to hear your thoughts about 2020 experiences that you think will become part of the new normal as well. So tweet me at @Clemmons to join in this conversation. I hope you enjoy this last episode of the new normal and wish you much happiness and health in the new year ahead.
In this new normal in higher education, I anticipate campus leaders continuing to show up on social media with strategy that feels authentic and is transparent.
As we move forward through the rest of this pandemic and then beyond, whenever that's going to happen, there's a challenge for those of us who are the technology leaders on their campuses, within their organizations, and that's to become a cake maker. Now, it sounds kind of weird, but I use the analogy that we're going to be creating layer cakes. Imagine, if you will, a tall cake that has multiple layers, a layer of vanilla, a layer of chocolate, a layer of strawberry, some sort of other layers. I'm not sure how many layers there are, but I know that there's different icings in between each one to make the cake rich and diverse and flavorful and appealing. And I think that's the challenge we're going to have, to take technology and make a technology layer cake. And I want to be clear that the way I look at this has nothing to do with a technology or the technologies. It's really about perceptions, it's about characteristics, it's about behaviors that the technology leadership on a campus brings forward. So in making the layer cake, there's going to be a layer of imagination. We're going to be required to completely reimagine how we deliver technology, how the university delivers learning to the students, how we help the students achieve their unique and individualized goals, how we work with the campus at large, staff, faculty for sure. So there's got to be a very vivid imagination and a wide-ranging imagination. There's another layer of that cake that's about innovation. And that's different than imagination. So innovation is really, in my opinion, driving something very different than you're used to on your campus. So I'm not sure how that would look on different campuses, but we really have to think innovatively and really bring new processes, new types of system thinking to the table, and to help shepherd along the notion of innovation in organizations that have been entrenched in this is how we've always done it for umpteen decades and more. So innovation is another layer of that cake that really requires attention and sort of constructing that layer so that it really brings value to the campus. We have to reinvent. So separate from innovation, it's like what's working well, and then how we reinvent that. How do we, as an example, unbundle higher education? It has become a sort of a contrivance of fortuitous growth, if you will, or progress that has brought us to what a university looks like today. And it's really a bundled affair. So how do we reinvent that notion of a student who wants to learn, to experience a new type of life, living college life, to athletics, to service for the community? How do we reinvent that?
I think one of the things that was clear over the last 10 months was how the relationships that we formed across campus drastically changed. I would say that we always had a good working relationship with other divisions and offices on campus and with faculty. But I think what changed over the last 9 to 10 months is how close those relationships became. And I would say that it's now become a true partnership. And we are all working together to solve institutional issues and institutional problems, and not just solve problems, but also we are all working collaboratively to create opportunities for the future. And I think that's going to be the new normal for us.
So the biggest change to teaching and learning, of course, has been the rise of remote instruction. And with that has come the rise of Zoom School, or the use of video conferencing for synchronous online learning. And while I don't think anybody actually likes Zoom School, what's happened is that instructors and students are much more comfortable with video conferencing for learning than they've ever been before. And so online learning used to be a very asynchronous space, with good reason, right? Because there's a lot of equity and accessibility and just plain logistical reasons why asynchronous works really well for online learning. But with our new comfort with synchronous learning, I think you're going to see it more blended approach, where we do have faculty incorporating a bunch more synchronous, like little activities or sessions inside of what at one point was probably asynchronous online learning.
What might become a permanent part of the new normal? I think for us at Fresno State and higher ed in general around us in California, perhaps more permanent telecommuting work, remote work, will be part of that new normal. And that will be a great thing for many of us, at least in the IT area, perhaps a big question mark around the campus, just based on the roles we do.
So one of the things that I think that really is going to be more significant coming out of the COVID-19 space is this increased use of telework. I think companies and organizations who haven't previously done it in a large way are going to really see the cost savings that can come along with it. I think it offers employees a better work-life balance. You can get employees out of a specific locale, a region. So now you're opening yourself up to a really open talent pool, right? When folks are able to telework, both nationally and internationally. I think it also helps us respond to the ways in which new generations are coming in and expect to be able to work. And so that's telework, that's flexible environments, that's again, better work-life balance. And so again, I think that it's going to really be more meaningful and offer a level of flexibility that a lot of employees never had before. So I think it's just going to be an opportunity for us to see how this works for many companies and organizations. I think it's going to have impacts on the spaces that are being leased and purchased moving forward as well, as there are definite cost savings. I think it reduces the carbon footprint, which is another benefit of allowing for telework. And again, just a wonderful outreach of and accessibility to additional talent. So I know that it's not necessarily going to be beneficial for every role within an organization, but certainly there are some pretty meaningful roles that I think lend themselves well to telework. And so really excited to see that be more of a part of the new normal. Thank you.
In the new normal, we'll find that we'll have a significant portion of our workforce still working remotely. There are really great advantages to working from anywhere. There's no commute, and we can provide better flexibility to our employees. From a university standpoint, it means we can reutilize space for things that are more directly relevant to the mission: teaching and learning, research, and outreach. We, of course, need to be very thoughtful about what we need to keep on-premise versus those things that can be done remotely in order to provide the best experience for our students. I'm really looking forward to working in this new normal and understanding how we can best support both an on-premise and remote workforce.
We are never going to think the same way again about working and learning together versus working and learning remotely, and the impact will be felt everywhere, and most specifically in higher education. We've advanced our thinking about this by perhaps 10 years in one, and it's going to have a huge impact both for good and for bad. Rather than thinking that learning and working in person is the default and working and learning from home is a special case, we're getting much closer to assuming that adults can undertake most work and most learning from home or from a remote location. In short, remote becomes the default and in person the special case. While this is liberating in a lot of ways, it's also going to create some big problems for many of our institutions that are going to be stuck with more buildings, grounds, and parking lots than they need, and a challenge paying for them. We also don't fully understand the impact on culture and social interaction when remote becomes the default. But the resiliency, efficiency, and reduced carbon footprint enabled by remote interaction will provide overwhelming advantages. For better or for worse, 2020 has set the stage for an exciting and challenging decade to come.
Now, Ray, you know I can't just give one thing that might change. And I say if I step back and look at the world overall, hopefully what we'll see is perhaps more rigorous cleaning protocols. We might even see mask wearing become more of a norm in America, as it has already been in Asia for quite a while now. And we might see some of these tools that are happening and being used in K through 12 with our kids to perhaps even be continued to use over the time in the next few years. And then hopefully we'll start to also see maybe some shifts of priorities. People who have lost loved ones, who have seen the direct effect of the pandemic, might start to really think about how to reprioritize life and work. Now, I say this all knowing that as human beings and with human nature, we have short-term memory and short-term effects, just as with the flu, the Spanish flu of 1918. Perhaps for several years, things in life may have changed, but soon after, I think our memories have faded. We've forgotten all of that until a century later. Thank you, and I hope you have a great holiday season.